Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Educational Gamer, and we are playing Strategic Command WWII, playing as the Allies, of course. It is mid-1942, and we want to go ahead and take the turn for the Axis to see what they are gonna do. Before we do that, though, we do have a couple of points to spend over here, since last time we were mainly moving around our units. So, let's jump right into that, and in between episodes, of course, I did think about this, and over here, for the US. So I think there are a couple of priorities. Firstly, we are not catching up to the UK anymore. The US really can commit to anything by its own now, and we can spend quite a couple of points over here. So we are, of course, already investing in sort of the bottom right category, and in the various other categories. So what I would rather like then is to increase our amphibious warfare capabilities by 1 pip, so that we're ultimately going to 5 out of 5, and that should be fine just to get the next level a little bit more quickly. It's also not that expensive, so let's do that. I'd also like to advance our aircraft a little bit, so the long-range aircraft and the ground attack weapons would be very good targets, I think. But also our tanks, I think, should be a little bit more advanced. So what I think I will want to do then is increase the research on tanks. That will hopefully also increase because the Germans do appear to have tanks level 3 now. And then we do have some points left. Yeah, actually not that few. So let's go ahead for long-range aircraft over here. That will help both of our carriers. And some of our other categories, and that does leave 175 points, which I think again we are going to spend on ground attack weapons over here, just to push that up a little bit faster. We do have a lot of tactical bombers in the pipeline as the US, so that does deal with all of our funding. As the UK, I think I'd want to catch up a little bit here in the industrial category. The US is already at level 4, so if we are increasing that over here, we should be getting some benefit out of that. I'd also like to increase amphibious warfare capabilities for the UK, because that is something that we need very, very direly. And lastly, and maybe most controversially, for the Soviet Union. We haven't been spending all that much on research lately, because we've mostly poured our resources into replacing all of the losses that the Germans are inflicting to us. But I think it's time to increase our industrial capabilities a little bit, so that we can be catching up just a tiny scooch over here. It is very important. I think the Germans are more capable of replacing their losses right now than we are, because they have so much more stuff and control basically all of Europe. So let's spend these 200 points. That will hurt us in the short term, but I do hope that in the long term that will turn out to be a good investment. That does leave a couple of points, and one more thing that I want to do then is, as China purchase a light cruise over here. So let's do that, and let's talk about the reasons why. So firstly, China is of course very much boxed in by Japan. The Chinese coast over here is basically surrounded by Japan at this point. And Japan is very strong navally, at least it was so historically. But last times our US Navy was very, very capable of inflicting serious damage on the Japanese. We know about 2 units over here. I think we know about still some units that are kicking around over here. But if we look at reports over here, in total, the Japanese Navy by now only has 8 ships. So I think it's time that China gets a navy of its own, even if that is only a single ship that it can afford. Very good. That does leave almost everything. I think we should purchase something as the US then, since we do have some points over here. These are all garrisons and such, so we don't really need those. Don't think we need anything more in terms of our navy. So we might actually think about doing some tanks over here, or another headquarter unit. But you know what? I think tanks would be a very fine choice. How come we can't purchase? Oh yeah, because it's discounted. Yes. Yeah, let's go for the first Marines over here, and I think that's going to be a good idea. Done. Good. For the UK, anything else that we can or should or want to be doing? Can you actually move out? You could. Could you upgrade? Well, you could, but... Okay, so last thing then as the UK that I want to do is move up this heavy cruiser actually here over towards that port, simply because that will block their supplies from over there. And I'm going to do something similar down here, so I'm going to send you to Tripoli. That does mean these guys will not supply any points anymore, and I do hope that we will starve Tripoli somewhat out of their supplies over there. And I do very much hope that that is going to be the case. So, without further ado, let's turn it over towards the Axis, and let's end our turn over here and see what they are going to do. So, we do get a decision over here. Bill Danovan's Office of Strategic Services proposes to extend its network of agents in Vichy, Algeria, to Sorbonne? Local officials, both military and civilian, in order to pave the way for US landing in the country. For a cost of 25 MPPs, or points, OSS believes that these agents could carry out minor uprisings in favor should our American forces land at either Casablanca, Oran or Algiers. Let's look at the notes of that. If we land in Algeria, that's good to see. When Algerian troops land in Algeria. Yeah, I think that is a very good idea, because as the US we do want to go a somewhat historical road over here, and 25 points really for the US are not that much. Our troops are blockading Brest and Bordeaux to decrease the points that the Germans earn by that. Good progress in advanced fighter developments for the US. Also in logistics, which is not as crucial. Espionage is very important, because it is increasing our income all over the place. So, yeah, by the way, here you can see the USSR is already earning a lot of points, but it's not necessarily, getting as much as it can. So I think actually spending 200 points to increase that basis a little bit should help, basically. So let's zoom in a little bit over here so that we can see the Axis move. They are attacking this core, which is somewhat likely. Moving towards south out of the Gilbert Islands with the light carrier that was heavily damaged. Moving into Vinistria over here, which was expected since we couldn't occupy it last time. And which is very bad, because I would have liked that. Japan is reinforcing a couple of its units in sort of French into China and in Thailand. Ooh! Aha! So we know about a couple of German positions. Ooh! Japanese battleship. Very strong over there. Good anti-aircraft fire, but we are being pounded over here. Likewise, more attacks over here. I think they will do a very broad-based attack over there, and likely on this core. Yes, it still feels like the Germans have a lot of steam in them. They really don't seem to be, even though we shot such a big... Ooh, oh my god, just brutal. The attack's brutal. Riga is hopefully gonna keep intact over here. Yeah, attacks all along the line, and they are circling in new units. More and more of them, in fact. Even this army. Ah, and we're losing that position. And now we're being outflanked because we don't have our defenses here anymore. We might lose this core. Yes, we will. Ah, goddammit. That was a good defense, though. Very spirited defense. The Germans are not running dry. They're still very good going. Ah, over here we did finally make some impression on the Japanese, who were attacking over there. Losses on our tanks. Still holding out in the north, though. Ooh, and in around Singapore. These Fallschirmjägers are really bad for us. Come on, keep holding out, please. This is a really spirited defense over here, but yeah, it's so hard. Just 1 point left on this core. The units are pulling back though, so that is encouraging. No, they will probably circle in one more. Do they have reserves? Doesn't look like that now. But still, taking so many losses is a serious drain on morale. And we already lost a corps. French partisans are doing our work. That is very good to see. We are blocking them. And disrupting a lot of convoys. And here we go. So, that does turn over the war towards us. So, shall we start out with the Soviets? I think that is a very good idea. Because it's typically taking the longest time to actually do that. Yeah, Moscow Corps destroyed. So, learning about a couple of German units here and there. Not that drastic. Ooh, that battleship spotting is very relevant to us though. Alright, so let's start out with the Soviets. I think we lost a corps over here. Everything else has... No, we lost one over here. Yeah, that was it. That does leave these anti-air brigades hanging a little bit. So our line has collapsed a little bit over here actually. These engineers are busy building their force. These guys really have an extremely low readiness and morale over here. The good news is that I think the Germans are looking a little bit on thin lines over here. What's your supply actually? It's 7. It's not that bad. It's probably coming out of Odessa as well. So we could mount counterattacks over here. Or were you just pushed back? Might have been. We could launch attacks with our tactical bombers. We do have some tanks over here. Yeah, but these guys also need to just withdraw and be happy. Just before we do that, let's make sure that the correct forces are assigned to the headquarter unit over here. The mechanized forces I would like to attach, and I can attach one more. There's no army over here, well, except this one. Yeah, but it's only there to anchor our lines, really. Okay, nevertheless, let's attach it, and that I think should be fine. So, you can't really move out all the way. You could mount some attacks. You really need a replacement, though. So, do we have to pull back out of our positions over here? I do like these positions because they're so... We could destroy some tanks. So we could of course push these guys back. We also have this mechanized brigade, so I think it might be most viable to pull back these guys. Probably pull them back very far actually, so that they can recover. Yeah, just the readiness and morale, it's really too low to get you anywhere. Right, so let's place you over there. Then we are going to move in... You want to move in the mechanized forces or the special forces? Ideally, I would like to push these guys back as well. On the other hand, just getting this position would be... No, I think this one is a little bit more important. This would be such a nice attack though. Just destroying this Hungarian corps. On the other hand, destroying these tanks I think is the most important. So, okay, let's start with this attack on these tanks over here. And unfortunately they are pulling back. Would have liked to destroy them, but I think we're getting overexposed if we are now moving out. So, let's not do that. Let's instead move our mechanized forces down here and think about which front we want to attack. And I think the answer is clear. It's going to be over here. Very good. No losses on our side. So we could use these tanks to come up over here and destroy these guys. I think these guys over here are way too exhausted actually to mount an effective counterattack on us. On the other hand, we really do need someone to move in here And right now there's no one. Except for these guys, but they're way too thinly worn. So you could move here, can't you? I'm not sure actually. Okay, so how do we want to do this? Well, I think the tactical bombers... There are some attacks that we could down here, but I think this one is the most important. There are interceptors, but we do have escorts. So they should be taking some losses. Very good. Yeah, okay, but no result otherwise. Okay, let's move you out. Let's see what we should be doing then. Yeah, okay, so yeah, actually let's do it like this. You destroy these guys. These tanks move into here. Could damage this German army, but it wouldn't do too much damage, so I'm not too happy about that. Let's reinforce this corps. Still has very low readiness and morale, but other than that you're fine. You guys are all okay, you are okay. You can still attack, okay, that's nice to see. And you can still attack, okay, so let's do that. Inflict some damage on these guys. Hopefully destroy them, there we go. Move in our special forces. And we recovered our positions over there. These tanks can withdraw and should probably be doing so. And then, oh, these guys can't be reinforced, too bad. Everyone else though here is fine. Let's see whether we can find any... Okay, we apparently do not seem to be able to find any air forces. That's unusual. They were there all the time last time. But fine, okay. I don't want to bomb these guys because why would I? We could do some damage, but other than that, I think the only guys who haven't moved out is this army, and certainly could do some damage on these guys, especially on these tanks. I'm still tempted, but yeah, right now we don't seem to have the capabilities. Okay, that does bring us to the north. Readiness and morale is not necessarily great over here, but we could try a couple of things to push them back. On the other hand, I'm also somewhat minded to just withdraw towards this line, shorten our lines further a little bit, be able to pull out some troops and give them some rest, even if we won't be doing extremely good in that trade, in that withdrawal probably. We do have some engineers over here who have built up some fortifications. I think I would like to bring it as close to the front as possible, actually. Yeah. Let's bring you over here. We just force march you, but you can still set to be fortified, and that you should do. So yeah, that would put up a relatively strong position over here in general. You're much better suited than these guys are, so I should ideally swap you out. And then pull back all of these guys, and these guys a lot further to the back actually. Who are you watching over actually? Okay, these heavy tanks need to withdraw. We got enough supplies? Well, you do. Okay, let's bring back these heavy tanks over here towards Earlshire. These fighters are okay. Do we have any bombers over here? No, we do not. Okay, it's interesting. We have some paratroopers. Could jump them somewhere behind or close to these guys. But right now there's no extremely... Oh, we do have some bombers. There's no extremely compelling reason to do so. Could attack over there. Might not be the worst idea. Inflicting some casualties on these heavy tanks would also be extremely helpful for us. Yeah, but otherwise we can't really seem to be, not making much of a dent in their lines. So, our withdrawal, how would we want to reorganize that? Let's bring these guys down here, the AA battery. That should be fine. You're entrenched a little bit, so I want to keep you over there. Unless, of course, I can't move you up. And then the question really becomes, who should be taking this position? Well, let's bring you over here. You're fine. You should be withdrawing somehow towards this direction. Let's bring the tactical ones up a little bit to the back. You're going there, you're going here. And then we have a much nicer line over there. And that means actually we can bring it down here and prevent any breakthrough of these tanks. And that doesn't look too bad. So we do need to reinforce you, and that brings you, I guess, towards the edge of your capabilities of defending. But that should be fine actually. So yeah, anyone else? Yeah, you can be reinforced. You should definitely be reinforced. We do have this army up here, which we pulled back I think last time actually, so that's fine. Yeah, everyone else seems to be okay over here. And that does mean we can place our new units. And we do have 2 armies and the rocket artillery. So I think this is a good place for the rocket artillery. We'll be able to cover these 3 guys, alternatively place it here to defend over here. But yeah, no. Okay, so rocket artillery, you're gonna go over here. Oh, we also have a guard army division, a guard tank division, heavy tanks. So it looks almost like we are making some progress over here. On the other hand, I feel that if we are amassing some troops down here, that also can have a certain impact by driving behind these guys. Especially since we do have some other forms of tanks down here already. Yeah, but then again, this is the much more threatened approach because there's so many Germans over here. Yeah, because of the Germans over there, I am going to place these guys in Polotovsk where they can recover a little bit. Oh, apparently we have some destroyers. Well, that's okay, I guess. We also have 2 armies. One of these, at the very least, I'm going to definitively place down here because now there's so many mobile units tied up in our defenses. That is not really something that I appreciate. So at the very least, one army needs to be down there. And I think the other one we can place up here so that at an appropriate point these guys can circle around. And that should be fine and lovely. Good. That does actually leave the USSR with a lot of points comparatively to what it used to have all of the time. I don't think there's any point in going over here because we do know in fact that the Germans only have 3 ships. One of them is this destroyer that we saw over here. One of them is a destroyer that was just over here. And one of them is a submarine down here in the Mediterranean. So yeah, no threat really of any Axis units up there. So that does mean that the USSR can purchase a couple of units or even invest into more research. So how do we look in terms of research as the USSR? Anti-aircraft defenses is something I very, very much want as soon as possible. Industrial technology advanced very, very poorly over here. And I think that must be a result of our intelligence level being comparatively low when we look at what the Axis is doing. So yeah, probably we simply, quote-unquote, simply want to replace some of our losses. So how do we look in terms of tanks? I don't think we have any tank losses that we could replace. These would be denoted by a star over here. So yeah, it's only a cavalry corps which I don't like to buy. There's one army. Let's buy this one for 172 points. And then we have several corps and several garrisons that we can replace. I think I want to go ahead and replace some of these cores. And that should be fine. How much points have we got? 150. Can we research something for 150? More AA defenses. This would definitely be a good investment, I think, since we are losing so much to their bombers. But then again, I think just more, even more cores would be the way to go over here. Yeah, that does leave some points, which is fine. We don't need to be too bothered about that. Don't really have any forces anywhere else, so yeah. No, all in all, we are fine over here. Good, and that does settle it for the USSR. Next time I think we'll be switching over to the US and see how the war develops over here in the Pacific and in Southeast Asia. So, looking forward to that. See you guys then. Bye bye.